Here is my current phone. It's an iPhone SE second generation. I'm here in the United States, and the good thing about this phone is the fact that it has a SIM card reader. But I've decided that it's time to upgrade my device. So I'm going to say goodbye to that for now. And I purchased this phone. And then I unfortunately also purchased this phone. So from the front, they look exactly the same. A little bit of color differences, but this one is the iPhone 15 that was made for the United States. And here we can see that there's really not much here in terms of text. One language lets you know that, storage capacities, things of that nature, so forth and so forth. This is the global edition of the iPhone 15. So we turn it over and way more text. Mainly it's just saying the same thing in multiple languages. So letting you know that this phone was intended to be enjoyed by more than one subset of individuals. But what is the big difference between these two phones? Before I get there, let me give you a little bit of background. Consider subscribing. Here is a house phone, and nothing special about it, an ordinary phone. And if I decided that one day, hey, I don't want to use this phone anymore, let me go to Best Buy, buy another phone. I can come up here, turn it over, disconnect the phone line, get rid of this phone, and connect this one. I'm not going to go through the process of actually connecting it, but I have the freedom to buy another device and connect it how I see fit without getting the phone company involved. In this case, it's AT&T, and coincidentally, AT&T happens to be labeled on this phone, but AT&T really has no say in terms of which phones I use in this house. Right now, you're looking at my hand. But what should be here, or at least what was here, was a television. We do have a cable box down there, and it's really a DirecTV satellite box, but the TV is no longer here. You might ask yourself, well, where is this TV? Why are you showing me a blank wall? Let me show you. I decided to move the TV down here. So as long as I have this cable box, I'm free to move TVs around the house however I see fit. The satellite box is active. It's connected to a coax cable, which is connected to the wall, which runs through the house somewhere and outside to a satellite dish, and I'm good to go. But I am free to move not only this box, but also this TV wherever I want around the house, as long as it's connected to an active coax line. So DirecTV in this situation has no say in terms of where I put this type of equipment in my house. I do not need to get that company involved with my general house setup. So here is where there are some blurred lines. You're looking at my home internet connection. We have Spectrum, not that big of a deal. But over here we have our modem. Over here we have our router. Now, with everything that I've shown up to this point, I've made it clear that once I have the service activated at my house, I'm clear to do whatever I want and place the devices wherever I want and purchase additional devices like TVs or telephones from wherever I want and connect them as I see fit. This is a little different. With this modem, yes, it does work right now. And if I wanted to purchase another modem, say I wanted to connect this old modem that I have, there's a good chance that I'd have to contact Spectrum and inform them of this change. Hey, Spectrum, I bought a new modem. Here's the MAC address. Please add this MAC address to my account so that way I can continue my service. There are certain companies that have some type of auto detect. You connect it, it starts working properly, and you're good to go. But once that happens, as long as everything goes the way that's supposed to, when it comes to the router, you're free to do whatever you want to do. So if I wanted to continue using that router, that'd be fine. If I wanted to connect this router instead of using Spectrum's router, I'd be perfectly fine. And if I had another one, I could do that. And to further that point, once these two things are working properly, whether they're Spectrum's or my own, at that point, anything that I choose to connect to the network, say laptops, smartphones, tablets, smart TVs, Internet of things, I am able to connect them at will without having to go through my ISP. All right? Now you might be asking yourself, why are you bringing all this up? When I was discussing these two phones earlier, the only thing that I really said was that this one over here, which is the one made for the United States, is missing a bunch of text, which you can see. And essentially, it's just the same information, and this one over here just has it in a bunch of different languages. But there is one important thing that this little guy is missing, and that is this. What is that? That is a SIM card. And SIM stands for Subscriber Information Module, I believe. So essentially, this is your gateway to your cell phone service provider's network. It's all of your information, and it's how you transfer your service from one device to the other. But as I just said, this phone, this iPhone 15, is missing one of these. So what does it have instead? It says requires eSIM. What exactly is an eSIM? E stands for Embedded SIM or Embedded Subscriber Information Module. So essentially, all of the information that was portable using one of these little guys is now embedded in the phone itself. And as I've said in the past, there's nothing wrong with eSIMs, nothing wrong with them at all, but they need to work in tandem with physical SIM cards, because right now the networks and the phones in this country and around the world aren't ready for an eSIM only environment. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open these two devices. Here we have our two devices. We have the one made for the United States, and we have the global version. Pulling the phone out, we'll set this one right here to the side. Pull this one out, we'll set it over here to the side as well. And in the box, we have some literature. We have two USB-C to USB-C cables, and that's pretty much it. My guess is that the only real difference internally is that for the literature, the one made for the United States should not have a SIM card ejector tool in there. And I don't see anything, I don't feel anything. This one is not in there right now because that's where it is, but I actually already took it out and here it is. So let's just go ahead and push these two boxes up and bring these two over. So from the front, you can't really tell much of a difference without even removing the paper. Let's just stack them on top of each other and flip them over. Do we see any differences? Right there. I know it's a little dark. Let's get an angle. But as we can see, the global edition of this iPhone 15 has the SIM card reader right there. We move up, we have the volume up and down buttons as well as the mute switches. The antenna bands appear to be in the same place. Same thing here. I know it's hard to see because of the dark color. If we come to the other side, there's another difference right there. One that I don't particularly care about is that the one made for the United States has that, I believe, the millimeter wave 5G antenna right there, or at least access to it, whereas the global edition one doesn't. And on the bottom, which you can't see, trust me, once I remove those two pieces of paper, you'll see the USB charging ports. Now, two things that I really would like to point out in terms of importance. Usually, and I've said this in previous videos, I'm not one to follow the crowd. I'm really not. And I get sometimes there are trendsetters and there are people who need to do something first in order for something to become a standard or the de facto or whatever. But removing the SIM card, as is what's done in the one made for the United States, let's switch these back to the way that they were, we're just not ready for it. As I've said it before, if the rest of the world is doing something, or let's say the rest of the world is not allowing something to happen, i.e. the carriers are like, no, we're not ready to go all eSIM the way that the big three carriers in the United States have gone, maybe that's for a reason. Maybe the infrastructure isn't yet where it needs to be in order to actually facilitate an eSIM only world. So from what I've seen so far, and maybe I'll do some more research, but there are tools in place right now to ease this eSIM transition. But as with a lot of things, it only happens within particular ecosystems. So going from iPhone to iPhone in terms of eSIM only usage is a thing. Apple has stuff on the phone so that way, hey, you are able to transfer an eSIM from an old device to a new device. Cool. I just read that the Google Pixel also has some type of eSIM management tool. And in the article, it wasn't sure whether or not that worked for one, non-Pixel devices, and two, the iPhone. Don't know. And then also on my Galaxy S23, I have seen something with regards to converting physical SIMs to eSIMs and then transferring eSIMs to eSIMs, or transferring an eSIM from one device to another device. But again, I believe that's only from a Galaxy to another Galaxy. So we are not yet in the position to start this eSIM only process. So I'm going to take these pieces of paper off. And I'm going to set them up, and I'll be right back. So we are back, and I have easily set up this phone, the global one, because all I had to do was remove the SIM card from my old phone and put it in. That's all I had to do. For this one, I haven't even really started yet, because I can go through the process, United States, I'll just continue. And even though the initial setup processes are fine, it's asking me what I want to do. You can transfer a phone number from a nearby iPhone or scan a QR code provided by your carrier. So even if I did transfer, let's see what happens. To transfer a phone number from another iPhone, make sure the other iPhone is nearby, unlocked, and has Bluetooth on, and is running iOS 16 or later. So let's see what happens if I do that. So it's unlocked, Bluetooth is on. Does it recognize it? And it does. So as I was saying before, yes, from iPhone to iPhone, it looks like I could continue. But because the specific reason I purchased this phone was because I wanted to continue using my physical SIM card, I'm not going to do that. So good on Apple for making that process seamless. So I can imagine, had I done that exact same process using this guy, then it would have automatically recognized the phone, would have seen that the phone number, I could have transferred it, and been good to go. But let's continue setting up here and see where we get. And of course, you have the option to skip this setup and do it later. And the first prompt we get, once we actually reach the home screen, is asking us if you want to set up cellular. Not now. So in summary, the phone made for the world, for the rest of the world, still accepts a physical SIM card, and doesn't have millimeter wave 5G, to my knowledge. The phone made specifically for the United States has millimeter wave 5G, which, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't really mean much of anything, and does not accept physical SIM cards. For some people, that's not going to matter, and I probably could have voiced this complaint last year with the iPhone 14, but I didn't get it, so I really didn't care too much. But now that I do have a modern phone, I definitely feel that, yes, good on Apple for making the process to transfer your number from an iPhone to another iPhone as seamless as possible. But if I had a Galaxy here instead of an iPhone, would that process have been as seamless? I don't know. At some point, if I want to go back from an iPhone to an Android device, is that process seamless? And whose job is it to make it seamless? Does Apple need to work with the other companies? Do the other companies need to work with Apple? I don't know. And I don't think they really care at this point. And I would imagine that what ends up happening in that situation is that you just call your carrier and say, hey, I got a new phone. I want to start using this new device instead of my old one. Yes, I know that if I'm transferring from the same device manufacturer to the same device manufacturer, They have processes in place to make it work, but I'm not doing that, so I need to get you involved. And I hope that from the examples that I shown earlier in the video, that shouldn't be required. Once I have the phone, I am able to do whatever I want with it. If I'm using one of these little guys, then I can take this out of the phone and put it in another phone or another phone and another phone. The only time that I feel like I really need to get involved with the carrier is when I'm switching carriers or if I'm having some type of technical issue. But if I'm just switching devices, I don't feel like I should have to call them. So I think I'm going to wrap it up on that one. The iPhone 15 so far seems like a pretty good device. I just hate the fact that for this device in this country, they've decided to go all eSIM. Normally when I buy devices from eBay, I have to test them out. So I've already tested this one out because, like I said, it was easy to just put the SIM card in. But I'm going to activate another line of service because I don't want to transfer my phone number. I don't want to transfer my main phone number to this phone. So I have a $10 prepaid T-Mobile card, and I will use that to activate the eSIM on this, and then I will go on about my business.